Howdy guys, Bookie Laura here. Halloween is fast approaching, so I thought I would do a little video just on my favourite sort of slightly scary, spooky horror books. This isn't a genre that I read a lot of, so I don't pretend to be an expert at all. I read horror books occasionally. I have a real love for Stephen King, so I've tried really hard to not include too many of his books, but these are ones that I particularly enjoyed. They wouldn't necessarily be called horror books, just books that gave me a bit of a scare. So I've decided to include first the book that I read the longest ago, because it stayed with me for such a long time, just that feeling of unease, and that is Bachman books that are actually by Stephen King, but particularly the story The Long Walk. I won't go into too much plot details, but basically they take some teenagers and make them walk until only one is left alive. They have to keep walking. And I just really remember, I read it when I started university, and I really remember that sort of deep, unsettling unease of the book. It was the first dystopian future book that I'd read, and it has stayed with me forever. I would say it's my favourite short story in the world. The second book I've put on this list is a book called The Ritual by Adam Nevill. I read this relatively recently. It's probably the scariest book that I've read of late. Again, don't want to tell you the plot, but I think it's some guys go hiking and get lost and, you know, all that drama. It really reminded me of the Blair Witch in that they found this house and there were lots of spooky things, but it took quite a long time before anything actually scary happened. It was more to do with that feeling that something was wrong and finding scary things, so kind of Blair Witch style. Third up, another Stephen King book, but it's my favourite book that I've ever read, and that is The Shining by Stephen King. Top book, favourite, love it. I don't remember being particularly, scared. I don't think of it as a horror book, but it's again unsettling and yeah, just gives you that unsettled feeling in your tummy, and it is a blooming fantastic book. Highly recommend that you read it. Couldn't put it down, and for that reason it's got to be on the list. Next up, I decided to include Bird Box by Josh Malerman. Again, I read this quite recently, and it's not what I would call a horror book, but it has that unknown. People that are opening their eyes outside are being killed by an unknown. Again, that unknown really appeals to me, that you didn't really know what it was that was happening, and I thought that the feeling of being confined in a house and the different characters, it just worked really, really well. Number 5, I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. This is again one of my favourite books that I've ever read. And if you have seen the film I Am Legend, forget it, because the book is almost completely different. The only sort of similarity is that being the last human in that situation. That feeling of being alone and being a solitary person is quite unnerving and done really well in this book. I don't think it's particularly scary from what I remember, but a story that is essentially about vampires and what have you is going to be a bit scary and should be included on this list. So the final book that I've decided to include, and these are in no particular order, is Afraid by Jack Kilbourne. This is a book that I think scared me the most when I was reading it. I think there's a helicopter crash or something, and bad things start happening, and it all goes a bit crazy. I wasn't particularly overjoyed with the story, didn't love it, but the first bit of the book scared the life out of me. It involved lots of people being killed in their own homes, and reading that in bed when you are at home and it is dark on your own is the most terrifying thing to read about. Somebody breaking into houses and killing people, and you lie there thinking, ooh, that's a bit scary. So it scared me the most, but it's not the best book. So those are my sort of favourite spooky books, favourite scary books, books that have scared me the most. As I said, it's not a genre I read a lot, so if you have any recommendations, please give them to me. Can you think of a book that would scare me? Probably, yes you can, very easily. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.